Michael. The name is not merely a label. It is a profound theological statement. Michael, who is like God? This question, carried by the voice of the Generalissimo, silences the boasts of demons and anchors the loyalty of the celestial hosts. Michael is the active, perpetual embodiment of God's supreme, non-negotiable sovereignty. Michael holds a singular office, one that places him above the cherubim, the seraphim, and all other orders of angels. He is the only angelic being explicitly called an archangel in the canonical scriptures, Jude 1:9, but his rank, as revealed through the Book of Daniel, is elevated further. He is the great prince who stands watch over your people. This is a title of supreme spiritual authority, signifying not just a temporary commander, but the divine security director for the very destiny of God's covenant people through every era of history. His presence in any conflict, whether a dispute over a single human body or a war involving fallen powers, is a guarantee of divine victory, not because of his own strength, but because he acts as the immediate, unhesitating executor of God's perfect will. When Michael issues a command, it is the instantaneous will of the uncreated source being executed upon the created realm. He is the high-ranking official whose word carries the weight of the universe's most sacred law. His authority is absolute, unearned, and was the ultimate reason for the envy that birthed the first treason. To grasp the depth of Michael's power, one must understand the essential purifying force he commands, holy fire. While many associate fire with judgment and destruction, the fire wielded by Michael is the primordial fire, the spiritual essence that tests, refines, and establishes the holiness of creation. Michael is described in ancient esoteric texts as the celestial blacksmith who uses this sacred heat. His presence is not merely bright, it is a devastating, unapproachable light, radiating consuming heat to anything tainted by impurity. He is the ultimate purifier, the angel of the refining process, who guards the sanctity of the cosmos. His sword, often depicted as a blade of pure divine energy, a flaming sword, does not just cut flesh. It burns away illusion, corruption, and wickedness at the very root of the spiritual being. To encounter Michael is to stand before the unyielding standard of God's holiness, demanding absolute truth and purity. This fire is his might, making his very nature an active defense against the darkness. The most profound, solemn, and eternally relevant of Michael's untold duties is his role as the celestial auditor and the holder of the scales of justice. This responsibility places him at the very center of human destiny and the legal framework of the spiritual universe. In traditions spanning Judaism and the vast lore of early Christianity, Michael stands prepared at the moment of every human passing. This is not a figure of mercy in this moment, but one of absolute legal enforcement. As the soul departs the body, Michael is there. His role is to adjudicate the immediate final spiritual battle with the adversary, who seeks to claim the soul based on the legal consequences of its earthly transgression, citing the cosmic debt. Michael's presence guarantees that this dispute is fought justly. According to the eternal law, he ensures the integrity of the process, preventing the soul from being misled or stolen by deception. Once the battle is engaged and settled, Michael holds the celestial scales. He weighs the deeds, the intentions, and the faith of the deceased against the perfect divine standard. This celestial audit is essential because the spiritual universe is governed by law. The debt of sin must be accounted for. Michael enforces the decree. If the soul is covered by God's grace, the ultimate legal payment, Michael escorts it safely to the gates of heaven. If not, his face, once blinding with purifying light, becomes the solemn, terrifying visage of the judge who must enforce the consequence of the unbroken law. He is the guardian of the principle that justice must be served, securing the eternal order against both rebellion and corruption. His scales are the final, unyielding arbiter of God's sovereignty. This tremendous authority, which defines Michael's very nature, was forged and proven during the most cataclysmic event in the history of existence, the war in heaven. To grasp the magnitude of this confrontation, one must first appreciate the stature of the adversary. Before his treason, there was Lucifer, the light-bearer, the being who embodied the pinnacle of creation's glory. He was the morning star, the being who shone brightest and was covered in every precious stone. The sardius, topaz, diamond, beryl, onyx, jasper, sapphire, emerald, and carbuncle, as described in the prophetic book of Ezekiel. Lucifer was the anointed guardian cherub, walking among the fiery stones, standing closest to the throne, leading the eternal worship of all creation. He didn't just play music, his very being produced the sound of adoration, making him the crown jewel of heaven's design, the object of awe even among the archangels who came after him. But here is where the spiritual physics of the cosmos fractured. Wickedness was found in him. Lucifer looked upon his own flawless, radiant perfection, and deep within his pristine spirit, a whisper of insatiable desire rose. This sin, pride, was the first internal wound the creation had ever suffered. Lucifer could not bear to be merely the greatest servant. He coveted the mantle of the master. The prophet Isaiah provides the chilling transcript of this treasonous ambition. I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will sit enthroned on the Mount of Assembly. I will make myself like the Most High. This sequence of 5 I will statements was not just a thought. It was a cosmic declaration that shattered the perfect harmony of heaven and tore the very fabric of the eternal now. It was an act of metaphysical violence when Lucifer rose against the throne, taking with him a third of the starry host, millions upon millions of angels. Heaven itself became a battlefield of consciousness and will. The spiritual chaos was absolute, and the equilibrium of creation was threatened by its own most beautiful product. It was in that decisive, shattering moment, when the light of the morning star turned black with arrogance, that the voice of the Generalissimo, Michael, rang out. Michael did not consult or hesitate. He stood firm with the faithful remnant of the angels, defining loyalty against the backdrop of betrayal. He met treason with an ultimate, unyielding statement of truth. The confrontation was not a clash of egos. It was fought with the power of pure theological truth. Michael's battle cry, Michael, who is like God, was not merely a sound. It was the active execution of the divine decree, a direct, undeniable rebuke to Lucifer's impossible ambition. That question, Michael's very name, shattered the flawed logic of the rebellion. The Book of Revelation captures the sheer scope of the cosmic confrontation. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back, but they were not strong enough. Michael led the loyal legions with absolute, unyielding focus. The spiritual vortex that opened was the gateway of judgment, and the glorious angel of light, along with his followers, was violently hurled down to the earth like lightning, forever losing their place in the immediate presence of the divine. Michael's victory was total, absolute, and foundational. It established for all time and eternity that no created thing, no matter how beautiful or powerful, can ever successfully challenge the throne of God. But the war was not over. It merely shifted arenas. After his expulsion, the defeated adversary, now called Satan, the accuser, and the dragon, turned his venomous focus upon the new creation, man. And here begins the saga of Michael's continuous, unseen defense of humanity, which would require him to descend from the heights of celestial war to the dusty floor of the earthly plane. His subsequent acts prove that the power he commanded against the morning star is the same power he brings to bear for the salvation of every individual soul. One of the most profound, yet often overlooked accounts of Michael's advocacy is his fierce confrontation with the devil over the body of Moses. This single, isolated verse, Jude 1:9, encapsulates the entire spiritual war waged around the redeemed human soul. Following Moses' mysterious death and burial by the hand of God himself, the devil sought to claim the prophet's body. This was not a dispute over physical remains. It was a cosmic legal battle for spiritual jurisdiction over a prophet who, though great, had once displayed human weakness, anger, and transgression. The devil, the meticulous accuser, sought to use Moses' past sins to establish a legal claim over the remains of one of God's most beloved. Michael, facing the immediate presence of the adversary, did not enter into a protracted theological argument. He did not engage in slandering the devil, nor did he enter into a personal shouting match, even though he had the power to annihilate him instantly. Recognizing the ultimate authority belongs to the Creator alone, Michael used the perfect sovereign phrase of command, "The Lord rebuke you." This phrase defined the limits of the spiritual war. It acknowledged the legal reality of the devil's challenge, but immediately placed the entire resolution under God's ultimate non-negotiable authority. This moment is the definitive illustration of Michael's character. He fights with absolute power, but always under absolute obedience. He is the ultimate guardian who stands for the principle of divine law, not the argument of created beings. He secured the physical and spiritual disposition of God's prophet against the claims of the accuser. Michael's commitment, however, is not limited to post-mortem disputes. He actively intervenes in the temporal affairs of men, often fighting to clear the way for prophetic revelation, the very lifeline of God's people. The Book of Daniel provides a staggering, chilling look behind the curtain of geopolitical power. When the prophet Daniel prayed for understanding regarding the future of his people, his answer was delayed for 3 full weeks. The Archangel Gabriel, who was assigned to bring the message, later arrived exhausted and battered, explaining the staggering reality. He had been detained by the Prince of the Kingdom of Persia, a powerful, high-ranking demonic entity tasked with controlling the Persian Empire and preventing God's work from advancing through that nation. Gabriel, even in his celestial might, explicitly stated that he faced an insurmountable stalemate and required assistance. His desperate plea was answered by the arrival of the Supreme Commander. Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me. Michael's intervention was required because this was not a dispute with a lesser demon. It was a territorial war against a powerful fallen spirit who held dominion over a massive global empire. Michael's entry into the fray was not merely a distraction. It was the decisive military action that shattered the demonic resistance and cleared the spiritual airspace, allowing God's critical message and prophetic timeline to finally reach Daniel and subsequently all of humanity. He is the guardian who ensures the flow of revelation is never permanently blocked by the forces of chaos. Michael is therefore actively involved in the fate of every generation and every nation. He is the great prince who stands watch over the faithful, not just in times of peace, but most critically, during periods of immense persecution, tribulation, and the final upheavals of the end times. He guarantees the continuity of God's purpose on earth. His continuous unseen intercession proves that even when chaos seems to reign, and the enemy appears victorious in the visible world, there is an undefeated Generalissimo whose sword is poised in perpetual defense of God's covenant people. He guards the boundaries of the possible for the faithful. This final immense authority, proven across celestial battlefields and earthly disputes, culminates in Michael's final, essential, and most comforting duty, the escort of souls. When the Generalissimo, the celestial auditor, finishes his solemn duty of weighing the deeds, his posture shifts from judge to guide. For the soul that has surrendered to God's grace, the transition from the temporal to the eternal is not a lonely, chaotic, or terrifying journey. It is a highly protected passage. Michael ensures the soul's safe journey, standing as the ultimate guardian against the final snares and territorial claims of the defeated adversary. Imagine the peace that descends upon the departing spirit. After a lifetime of striving, suffering, and fighting the unseen wars of the world, the very prince who defeated Lucifer and commanded the armies of heaven stands beside you, ensuring your safety. He is the perfect guardian of the threshold, whose presence alone guarantees that the dark principalities and powers cannot interfere with your final destination. Michael's light illuminates the shadows of death, guiding the soul along the surest path, the royal road to the gates of heaven. This journey of the soul is the culmination of all Michael's previous acts. His willingness to fight over the body of Moses proved his commitment to the redemption of the individual believer. His war against the Prince of Persia proves his power to clear obstacles set by dark, unseen forces, and his eternal victory over Lucifer proves his absolute authority over death and corruption. He uses this accrued might to perform his most tender duty, leading the faithful home. Michael defined allegiance in the Great War in heaven, where he shattered the rebellion of the morning star and enforced the eternal law that none shall ascend above the Creator. He defined justice as the celestial auditor, holding the scales of justice and ensuring that the legal claim of grace covers every soul that relies upon it, guaranteeing that the cosmic debt is perfectly adjudicated. He defined advocacy in the desolate confrontation over Moses' body, where he used the highest phrase of sovereignty, "The Lord rebuke you," placing the defense of a prophet's soul under the non-negotiable authority of God. He defined intervention in the trenches of geopolitics, fighting the Prince of Persia to ensure that the vital flow of revelation could reach humanity, proving that he actively guards the timeline of prophecy. Michael is the unwavering, active presence of God's loyalty, might, and justice. He is the ultimate assurance that you are never alone in your darkest battles, your deepest fears, or your most critical moments of transition. His command of the primordial fire is your purification. His position as the great prince is your protection. His role as the escort of souls is your final security. From the command of the primordial fire and the audit of human history to the defense of a single prophet's body and the safe passage of every righteous soul, Michael's very name is the eternal answer to every doubt, every fear, and every challenge from the darkness. His might is your eternal defense. Let this deep knowledge inspire your spiritual vigilance. Know that when you face overwhelming odds, the one who fought and defeated the greatest rebel in the cosmos is the very prince who stands watch over you.